Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show. And I'm Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse, and this is the podcast where we talk to and about busy leaders, professionals and business owners. I learn about who they are and what they do and why they do it, and how they prioritize their own health and well-being to stay focused, positive and productive. Today, I am delighted to be joined by my wonderful friend, Simone Henry, the founder of Eshe Music. Simone is my business bestie and my accountability partner. We met on a retreat in Florida just before the pandemic began in 2020. We were members of a mastermind together, and we are really good friends. We speak most weeks and talk about all sorts of things. Today, we're going to be talking about how to maximize your music career and the importance of thinking beyond radio when it comes to marketing your music, the weird but true fact that it's possible to make a living with your music, even if your music is not mainstream, and the fundamental importance of building a fan base before trying to get on large platforms. Hi, Simone. How are you? It's good to see you. How are you doing?
Hi, Dawn. I am happy to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, so
I am
good
doing
to see
well.
you.
How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks, and it's absolutely amazing to see you. And let me introduce you properly. Simone grew up singing in church in many different groups and choirs with many different styles that fostered her love of music. She has a business degree from Morgan State University, which is a historically black college and university. So HBCU, I only know what that meant today, actually. And she's located in, which was located in Baltimore, that's the Morgan State University. She uses those skills to help independent Christian recording artists to brand themselves and to build their fan bases so they can make money with their music. Now, Simone has already sort of mentioned that she was the first person I interviewed on my podcast just over a year ago. So much has happened since then to the world and to us, and I think it's been a challenging time for us, both personally, professionally and health-wise. How have things been for you since we last spoke on air?
Well, a lot of things have happened. Like I am now full-time with my coaching business.
Yay.
And as far as the health and wellness goes, I've been good for the most part. But, every now and then, this disease that's in my body, the sickle cell disease, it likes to flare up and do weird things. So I learned recently that, or I realized recently that it kind of goes in phases. So I was having a phase where I was getting pneumonia all the time, and now I feel like I'm in a phase where I'm having like a full body pain crises, and have to go and get the super duper heavy duty pain medication from the hospital in order to take care of it. So, but most days I'm good. And I try to take care of myself. I try to, drink lots of water, eat healthy. Lately I've been getting out more, getting more sunshine, and, and trying to make sure I take care of my mental health as well.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about that last time, didn't we? So Simone has got sickle cell anemia, which is a long-term condition that has to be managed. And last time when we spoke, we talked about how to manage that during a pandemic when we were isolated. And it's a continuing illness, and things change. And we talked about isolation, we talked about mental health. And we also talked about the importance of looking after meditation and sort of like having a routine as well. And I think also, since you you're doing your business full time, that makes it even more important, doesn't it, to sort of like look after yourself, because your business life goes on regardless of whether you're feeling unwell and everything. So I know that we've personally talked about the importance of resilience and having sort of like things in place so that even when you're not feeling your best, that your business still goes goes on, and I know that's, you know, that is something that I think we both, you know, we sort of like, you know, have to think about that quite a lot, isn't it, Simone?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, as an IT professional for so many years, one of the
Yes,
things that I really appreciate is good software that allows you to automate some of your processes.
absolutely.
So there are days when I don't feel like writing an email or posting on social media. It's really nice to have some systems in place that automate some of these things for you. So it doesn't look like you've disappeared off
I
off the face of
know,
the earth. Like you're
I
still out
know.
there. I'm still here. I'm still working.
Yeah.
So that I appreciate a lot.
Yeah, and it's also so automation's like another member of your team, isn't it? I think I'm a bit of a technophobe,
Absolutely.
but so I'm, you know, I'm just coming on a bit sort of like automation train and learning it. So yeah, it really is a thought. So we're talking about maximizing your music industry today, and you know, you stated that it's important to think beyond radio when coming to marketing your music. So I know that a lot of people you help, they want to get their music onto the radio. That's their goal, isn't it? But
Yes.
you think that you have to think beyond that. So tell me more about that.
Well, the thing that, and I don't know if I work with Christian artists, gospel artists, Christian hip hop artists,
Yeah.
traditional choirs, groups, people like that. And they tend to be older. They tend to be in my age range. I'm 47.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be in that age range. And you know, we grew up listening to the radio. That was the easiest way for us to learn what new music was out, find out what was good, find out where the concerts and everything were. And so when artists are, they're trying to they're trying to get their music out there. When they put out a new single or a new album, the first thing that they think of when it comes to marketing their music is, I need to put this out and get this out on the radio so that people can hear it. Well,
Yeah.
the things that they forget are the streaming platforms. They forget about the internet. They forget about social media,
Mm-hmm.
and they think that, you know, radio is the way to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem is things have changed so much in the past 20 or 30 years in the music industry, and
Mm-hmm.
radio has so much more competition now. So
Yes.
looking at radio as the be all and end all to get your music out to listeners is not really the way to go in the world we live in today. So, you know, so that's one of the things that that's a constant thing that I have to re-educate artists on.
Yeah.
Um, when I'm hanging out with people in the music industry in the secular world, you
Yeah.
know, they never mention radio. Radio is not really a
Really.
thing that they're
Yeah.
pushing their independent artists towards. But for some reason in the gospel world, that's where we're pushing our artists.
Mm-hmm.
And they get their hearts broken and it's not working for them. And so I'm out here just really trying to push this message. Look beyond radio. Look
Mm-hmm.
at other means for getting your music in front of people, getting your
Mm-hmm.
music into people's ears so that they can
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
it. You know, radio is not the be all and end all of marketing your music.
No, and I think, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, but I do remember as a child that radio was king, you know, before video, and when video, even before the internet, video sort of changed things a bit, didn't it, really? But you know, so and now, you know, it's amazing the ways that you can buy music, that you can access music, and you don't even have to pay for it, do you? Really, you can access it in lots of different ways, and there are people I know my son, he loves all sorts of different music, but he accesses it on the internet through streaming and through all different things. And he'll say to me, "Oh, this is a great," he likes gospel music and likes all kinds of music, and he'll say, "Oh, this is a great song that I've heard," but he'll have heard it on Spotify, and and I've got a nephew, guy who did the music for this podcast actually, and he put his thing, his original music straight out on Spotify. So there's all that, as you said, there's all sorts of different ways to get your music out there. So but I think that maybe people like me in my age range, they remember what worked in the past, and it's about forward thinking. So how do you help people to do that, to sort of like think more creatively around where their music's going to be?
Well, I talk to them. I try to educate them. I do master classes and courses, and I actually have an event coming up, a 3-day event coming up, where I am going to go through all of the different things that artists should be doing to market themselves, brand themselves, and monetize
Yeah.
their music. All of these artists, they are putting their music out on Spotify and YouTube and all these different places. But what they're not doing is they're not using those tools to their full extent.
Yeah.
Spotify gives artists a lot of different tools to get their music in front of people. But most of the artists I come across, they don't know about these tools and they're not using them.
And I think because so this podcast is going to be on YouTube as well, and so I've discovered the world of YouTube, and like you said, it's a whole different world, isn't it? Really, that I didn't know existed. And so there are sort of things that you have to do, even the titles, where you promote it, and the social media you promote stuff around. It's a whole different thing. So it'd be really helpful to sort of like have that, some guide around that. So we've often talked about making money both from our full-time as a full-time business owner, and we're both doing that at the minute. And but I wanted to talk about the weird but true fact that it's possible to make a living from your music, even if your music's not mainstream. So I'm really interested in that, because I think gospel music isn't mainstream, but it's there, isn't it, really, and very influential. You can see that in adverts, you can see that in television programs, the way they put gospel music behind mainstream, for want of a better word, singers and everything. So we've talked about sort of like your wish that that you want gospel artists, Christian artists, to be able to make their living from music. So what are the ways that people can make their living from their music, even if it's not mainstream?
Well, the reason why they can make a good living with their music, even if their music isn't mainstream, is because we live in a world now where everything is pretty much on demand, and we are not, because radio isn't king. Right now, internet is the king. And because people can go to which far corners of the internet to find a thing that they like the best, nothing is being necessarily fed to us and saying, hey, you should, you have to listen to this because this is good and this is what we think you should listen to. That's not necessarily happening on the internet. Yeah, there's algorithms that kind of say, yeah, we think that you're going to like this because you've listened to this already. But in reality, you don't actually have to follow that algorithm if you don't want to. I get music suggestions all the time that I completely ignore because I'm going after what I like, right? What I discovered on YouTube, and I'll add that song to my playlist rather than what, the music app suggested to me. So because people are just picking what they like the best, or, if you make music that combines hip hop and opera, or you make music that combines an operatic songstress with a metal background, or you know, there's all these different combinations and fusions and different things that people do that you would never hear some of these things on the radio. You would never have heard them on the radio years ago.
Yeah.
But you're hearing them on the streaming platforms now. Yeah. And a lot of this music and this music has lots and lots of fans.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just the music itself that's drawing the fans, it's the artists. They are sharing of themselves. They're sharing their stories and what brought them to where they are now. Yeah. And that's the stickiness that's keeping the fans engaged and keeping them coming back for more. So your music, I hear, I keep hearing, you know, some people saying, oh, well, you should write songs that sound like this. And because, well, and this in the gospel world, this kind of goes back to, you know, you need to write songs that have these particular phrases in it. You know, in the gospel world, there's all these different phrases that we say all the time, like God is good all the time and all the time. God is good, you know, and he woke me up this morning and he started me on my way, you know, and people are putting these phrases in their songs all the time. But I'm here to say that you don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you found this obscure verse, because, you know, that you were studying your word one day and you found this obscure verse, but it means something to you in your life, and you decide to put it in a song, and it's not one of those phrases that we say all the time in church or whatever, go ahead and do it, because it means something. If it means something to you, it's going to mean something to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. It
doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be mainstream. It doesn't have to be like, you know, everybody else, what everybody else does. But you put it out there, you share the story behind it, you tell people where it came from. People will identify and they will start following you and listening to your music. And guess what? Now that they're following you, you can now transform these followers and listeners into fans, and then into super fans who will advocate on your behalf and help you take your music ministry to the next level. But you have to, you know, you can absolutely do that as long as you're connecting with people. It doesn't have to be mainstream. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so I really like what you said there. And I suppose there's sort of, it goes back to sort of like, you know, should my music be on the radio? It's sort of because that's what I've seen people do before. And I know we've got experience that it's all about the story, isn't it? It's all about the meaning, it's all about the values and what it is. It's also about connection, isn't it? What does, you know, what does what you say or sing resonate with other people and why? And also, if you share of yourself, as you said earlier, that, you know, people will think, oh yeah, I'm like Simone, you know, or I'm like Dawn, you know, that they're saying things that mean something to me, and then and that means that when they say something else, when we say something else, that I will give it some thought and I will definitely listen to it. So and then it's sort of not about, it's around, you know, you're saying why it means something to you, you're saying it from your heart, you're saying it authentically, but you're sort of telling a story about why it's important, telling a story about your own journey. So it's a bit of an X factor thing for UK residents, and I think it was in America too. It's sort of like the journey that, you know, but these artists go on, why it means something to them, and, you know, why you should listen to them, and then that gives meaning and resonance to what the person is actually singing or saying. Absolutely. and then you sort of create this bond, don't you, around that you're going on the journey with them, and you're feeling something around the same thing. So, and it's around doing that. So, but the thing I'm going to say is sometimes people feel a way about doing that, don't they? They don't feel either the confidence to do that. They sort of like can't imagine themselves doing that, and it doesn't come naturally to that. I always say I like to chat, I'll tell you my story, you know, all the time, you know, all day, every day, you know, but some people struggle with that, and, you know, they might have brilliant voices, you know, they might have really something to give, but the actual marketing, you know, of that, and, you know, and before maybe they would just rely on their lovely voice being on the radio, but the game has changed, hasn't it? So what would you say to people who are struggling with that?
What I would say is practice. practice telling your story and sharing what it is that brought you to where you are now. Some of the key experiences in your life, because you're not on this journey alone. You know, as an artist, I wrote an article for a magazine recently, and they were asking me like 5 things that a person should consider before getting into a music career. And one of the things I said was that, remember that as an artist, people are looking at you. You have a stage, you have a platform. People are looking at you. You will be a role model, whether you want to be or not.
Absolutely.
So, so go ahead and share your story. Having a fan base is, especially as an independent artist, you're not gone are the days where the label are going to pull you up off the street and create this aloof persona for you where nobody can touch you. You're over there and we're over here, and we're just supposed to admire you from afar. That doesn't really happen that much these days. You know, it happens for some people, but not for most of us, right? If you are here and you're as an independent artist without that label backing, you have to build a relationship with your fans.
Absolutely.
And that relationship comes with sharing experiences and sharing stories with other people.
Yeah.
So what I said in the article was that if there are things in your life as a Christian artist, I don't know how secular artists think about this, but as a Christian artist, one of the things I like to tell them is to, if you're going through something, you're dealing with alcoholism, you haven't gotten a handle on it, you're not in recovery, there's stuff going on in your life that just would not look good on a public stage as a Christian artist.
Yeah.
I would say deal with it first before you reveal it to your audience, right? When you get to a place where you can say, God has brought me through that situation, and I am standing here today and can say I have the victory. That, I believe, is a great time to share it with others, because now you're encouraging them and letting them know that they can do it too. If you did it, they can do it too. But if you're still struggling, you're still going through it, and you know, you're on stage 1 minute, hands raised, you're praising the Lord, and you know, you're singing this beautiful music, and then you come off the stage and everybody makes you angry and pisses you off and you're cursing everybody out. People are looking at that. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So, right. So if you don't have the victory over some of these things in your life, don't share it. You know,
so I think that's really good.
Yeah, deal with it and then share it. Right. So, but at this stage of life, there are some things that you have gotten the victory over, and can say that God has brought me through that, and I can share how we did it, and you know, and I am standing here a conqueror, you know, and go ahead and share that. We've all come through stuff. We may still be going through some stuff, but we have all come through stuff. So we can share the things that
we've gone through. Absolutely.
Right?
And I love that, because I think it's about showing you're being vulnerable, and you know, and I think there's a definite difference between people who show their vulnerability, that there is something around. I know I feel this, particularly as a sort of like a healthcare professional, that you know, you can't help people if you're going through the thing and you're not managing it at the minute. So how can you go out there and embody what you're talking about? So that's one of the reasons I go to the gym, because you know, how can I talk about health and wellness when I'm sort of like, you know, not very fit at all? So you know, that is that's something about embodying it, and it's also about doing something and about going through the journey, realizing where you are, realizing where you're struggling, and actually doing something about it. And definitely you can share that, and you know, and it's sort of like it, and even if you're not totally through it, I would say that you're working towards it is also something to share. Because you know, I know a lot of Christian people, that they struggle with a lot of things, but that's part of what makes you human, isn't it? Really, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle, and that that you're working your way through it. But and it's also being on brand, isn't it? For being on brand, definitely. So I was going to ask you,
and I feel like, oh, sorry. One other thing about that. I feel, because you did say, like, if you're going through stuff, we're all going through stuff. If you can share what you're going through, I feel like in a positive way or in an encouraging way, then I think that's good to share. Whereas if you are super depressed and you're down in the dumps and you have nothing positive to say, and your audience is like, oh my gosh, do I need to call a doctor for you? Do I need to pray for you? That's a different situation.
I have been there. When I thought, what, that person needs to see a doctor. They shouldn't be here. They should be at the hospital. And I have actually phoned people afterwards. And okay. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's sort of like that's not what you want your audience to say. Hey, are you okay? Are you doing okay? You feeling all right? Too true. So you've mentioned about sort of like building your fan base, and and how important that is, and to sort of like have a community. I guess that's what you're talking about, people who want to see you do well, who are going through the journey with you. How important is that? And I know that's something you teach, Simone.
Well, as a music artist who wants to be on the large platforms, be on the Grammy charts, walk across the stage at the Stellars, and get your award and all of that. I hear artists talk about that all the time. I want to be number one on the charts. Well, you only get there if people are listening to your music and they are buying your stuff, whether you're selling your music and or selling your merch. So the fan base is extremely important. Basically, ultimately, yes, you are a creative person, you're an artist, you're a musician, but the people who get to the heights that we're talking about, ultimately, they are business people. Mm-hmm. And what do our business coaches always tell us is, you're not really a business person if you have no clients and no customers.
Yeah, true.
As a musician, your clients and your customers are your fans.
Yeah.
You don't have any fans, you don't have a ministry, you don't have a music career. You basically have an expensive hobby. It's what you have.
Yeah.
So those customers, those fans are extremely important, because you may want your music on the radio, but who's listening to it? You may want your music on the charts, or you may be wanting to walk across the stage and get the award at the Stellars, but who is cheering for you in the audience? Who's voting for you on the ballots, right? Those are the fans. The fans are the ones that push you to these levels. Who is it? It's Chance the Rapper, Lecrae, and there was another guy. But anyway, they just kind of burst on the scene. Mm-hmm. They burst onto the scene and into our collective consciousness, after having done all the hard work to build their fan bases on a local and national level. And they got to large platforms without ever having been on the radio, because they hustled and they built these relationships with their fan bases on those local levels and on the internet and on these streaming platforms. And those of us who are paying attention to other things, we're not seeing any of this because we're not part of the fan base, but they're building up this fan base. That's what they did. And now we all know their names. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the fans that push you to the bigger heights. And then now, and they did it without the labels. Now the labels and the radio and all these and big industry tastemakers and gatekeepers are now calling them and saying, hey, can you be on our platform? Hey, can you come over here?
Yeah.
Why? Because if they get these artists who have built these large fan bases, guess what? The fans are going to start looking at them as well.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's kind of like, it's a win-win situation, right? A lot of artists, they tell me, I want to be on the radio. I want my music on the radio. Well, radio has a lot of competition today. They have competition for listeners. They have to have lots and lots of listeners in order to keep their advertisers. Yes. So if you can't help them with the listeners, then why should they play your music? You're not helping them out at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They may be helping you by putting, your music in front of the listeners that they already have, but you're not helping them by bringing them any new listeners. So why should they play your music?
Yeah.
Build that fan base. It's fundamental.
That's absolutely, and that is the same for any business, isn't it, really? That you need to build your client base and create loyal clients, and it's and there are lots of ways to do it, and you gave some brilliant examples of it being done. And I know that you, in your work, Simone, that's what you help people do to build their fan bases, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's fundamental. So that's one of the first things I talk about. It's the thing that I press with any artist who comes to me for help. I need help with my career. I want to get on the radio. When they tell me I want to get on the radio, I have to steer them back towards, well, why do you want to be on the radio? Shouldn't you be building a fan base first?
Absolutely. So do you have you got something to share with the listeners that's going to help them with this?
Well, I do have a guide that I will be putting out there because the first question I hear from most gospel artists is, I want to get on the radio. Can you help me get on the radio? So since that is the thing that is forefront in your mind as a gospel artist, I put together a guide that shows you exactly how to do it. It's not easy, but it can be done.
Brilliant. And it's a great introduction to your work, isn't it, Simone, and the other things that you were doing. So, and I'll put a link in the show notes to Simone's guide, which I know will be really, really helpful for people who want to get on the radio, but also to explore the other stuff that Simone does around fan base building, etc., and her programs and her coaching programs as well. How do you, so I'm a nurse, I ask everybody this, and we've talked a little bit about it before. So there's two questions. How do you keep yourself focused and positive? I know it's not always been easy going, and there's things around, keeping your income up, sort of like getting clients and things like that. So how do you keep yourself focused and positive? And then how do you manage your own health and well-being? It's and we've talked about, you've got continuing illness as well. You're a solopreneur at the minute, and it's a lot, isn't it? And we spoke previously that you don't really live near your family, they're in a different part of the country. So how do you do it, Simone?
Well, to stay focused and positive, I listen to the Bible every morning. Mm-hmm. And I listen to positive motivation, from somebody who believes in the word. Mm-hmm. So that helps me out a lot. And then I also try to keep my dreams and goals forefront in my mind to remind me why it is I'm doing this. I'm actually in my office right now. I have my vision board up, and every time I look at it, I look at what I'm working towards. And one of the things that's on my vision board is a picture of my family. That's, my mother is aging. I want to be able to help her. Mm-hmm. I want to be closer, be able to visit them as mm-hmm. often as I can. Mm-hmm. So I keep that forefront in my mind. And as far as like my health and wellness, like I said before, I try to to eat healthy and drink lots of water, not take in too much sugar, and get out as much as possible, especially when it's sunny out, and, get some sun. And I like to watch stand-up comedians
I know
because
you like British ones, don't you? I think that's the only reason
I
you
like
talk to me,
British
actually.
ones. I like a few American ones too, like Tiffany Haddish is a favorite. Kevin
Yeah,
Hart is a favorite.
yeah,
But yeah, my favorite British one, I think, is Gina Yashere.
yeah. She's
Um,
fabulous.
yeah, there was another one. Was there another British one? I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, because they keep the laughs going, and
Yeah.
laughter is good medicine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you keep up with your friends and your family. Like we speak, like no, we try to speak at least once a week, don't we? Really, to talk about, to keep things
Yes.
going. It's really important to sort of like to talk to somebody about who's going through the same thing. So we're accountability partners. So we sort of keep each other accountable from a
Absolutely.
business point of view and keep each other going. I know that helps me a lot too. So
Yeah, it helps me too, definitely.
oh, bless you. And so how can people keep in contact with you, keep up with what you're doing, and, if they want to work with you, what's the best way to contact you, Simone?
Well, the best way to contact me is to IM me on either Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I do answer those messages. You can find me on all of those platforms at Eche Music, ECHE Music. And yeah, that's where you can find me. Oh, and then my website is echemusic.com.
That's fantastic. We're coming to the end of the show, Simone. It's been so good to talk to you, so good to catch up with you. I do catch up with you once a week anyway, but it's so good to sort of like an update from the podcast we did a year ago. It's been absolutely delight to share your journey, so where you've moved on, and sort of like who you're working with, and the really good things that you're doing. Is there a final word or a tip that you want to leave the audience with and share with the audience before we go?
My biggest tip is to really take what you've learned and apply it, actually do it.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that stopped me for a lot of years with from moving forward was analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And you're just listening to podcasts or reading the books, but not actually doing what they say. And so you don't move forward. So my biggest tip is to apply what you learn, and to never give up.
That's fantastic. And you don't give up. You are very resilient, and you keep going, don't you? You really do. And you're an absolute inspiration to me, and around keeping going in spite of, we've all been through so much. Everybody listening, I'm sure, has had their own challenges with the pandemic, with isolation, with keeping their business career, keeping the money rolling in and everything. I think it's so important to keep your dreams. You talked about visualizing what you want to do, and having those sort of like daily reminders and what's inspiring you about what you want to do and why you're doing it. So I absolutely love that. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Love that. And thank you so much, Simone. So that's it for the Dawn Jarvis. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. That's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And it's the Dawn Jarvis show is brought to you by dawnjarvis.com. Take care, and hopefully we'll speak soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.